Hello. It's been quite a long time since I last streaming. Today I decided to talk about some fascinating topics that I've found recently in order to improve my English and French pronunciation. So today I want to talk about a topic that I found on Facebook. It has a quite interesting title. Why is then the suffering? It 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 has first caught my attention so well that I have to immediately read it thoroughly. And today I want to share with you guys what I've been learned, what I've learned from this topic. So I will speak English first, and then I'll try to talking in French. And here is one of my map design for our small game. Okay, so let me start. Of course, I'm using a transcript right now on my phone, but I would like to try a little bit, try to, like speaking in another type of tongue, because normally I would do every speech of mine in a monotone, and I don't like that because it shows that I don't have any confidence in my speech. Moreover, I would like to add some to unpredictable response while I'm talking to yeah to eventually enhance my English skills. So let me start with a little story from 1688. Back then, in the Tower Street area of London, a man named Edward Lord opened a small coffee shop. Now, looking from the outside, it just some kind of it. The coffee just have some long tables with strong smells of Turkish coffee, and men chatting through thick tobacco smoke. There's nothing special about the coffee shop at all. But then, but the client was, but the client tele was what made the coffee shop unique. You know, you can't not compete with other coffee shop with just this kind of basic setting. It has to be something special in order to make the shop like maintained in a long amount of time like that. You know, the shop still opens nowadays, and I would like to tell you in details about what make it unique. So the coffee shop was near the dock. Therefore, it naturally became a gathering spot for ship captains, maritime brokers, and merchants desperately waiting for news about their ship out in the Atlantic. Yeah, Lloyd was a very smart businessman. He started pinning shipping news to the walls, hired people to gather intel from the ports, and even provide clean paper and pens so its clients could draft a contract right there at at the coffee table. So, and here is when it gets really interesting. Among those contracts signed by candlelight There was a very specific type. So it wasn't for buying goods or hiring labor. It basically said if this particular ship does not return, a group of investors here will pay the ship owner a fixed sum. That means in exchange, the owner paid them a much smaller amount upfront, which we now call a premium. You know, the the basic or the more basic interpretation of this is that some investor paid a small amount of money for a ship, and then if the ship does not return from Atlantic, the owner of the ship will get that small amount of money uh, as some kind of guarantee. So you see, before this kind of contract existed, sending a ship out to sea was a pure gamble. You put your life savings into a vessel and then you just prayed. You literally just prayed. If it returned, you were rich, and if it sank, you lost absolutely everything. So, but after Lloyd's Coffee House, something fundamentally changed. The ocean didn't change. It still caused really devastated troubles for the ship, but the storm were the same, and the probability of ship sinking remains constant for centuries. So what actually shifted from the after the coffee house? Well, the answer to that question leads us directly to why today's younger generation, Gen Z, is experiencing a profound sense of structural anxiety that previous generation rarely felt. Um, to understand this connection, we need to take a quick detour and talk about an economist named Frank Knight. So in 19, 1921, Knight published his doctoral thesis about at the at the University of Chicago. Uh, it was titled "Risk, Uncertainty, and Profit." So basically, uh, it immediately became a classic because of one of one brilliant distinction he made in the very first chapter. Uh, okay. So Knight pointed out that there are two very different things we casually call risk. The first one is actual risk, situations where you don't know the outcome, but you know you do know the exact odds, like flipping a fair coin. Like you know that coin have heads and tail. You know two kinds of possibility that might comes out exactly. The second is uncertainty. This is when you don't even know the possible outcomes. There are no profitability tables and no historical data and absolutely no way to assign a number, a quantitative data to it. Just think about it. A casino never goes bankrupt from roulette because roulette is basically a calculatable risk. A car insurance company doesn't collapse from daily traffic accidents. because they had millions of data points to calculate premiums. However, that same insurance company could go bankrupt in months if a totally unprecedented pandemic hit, just like COVID-19, or if a new technology suddenly stopped everyone from driving, such as this AI driving system. That is not risk, that is poor uncertainty. So, going back to Edward Lloyd, because his coffee house, a sea voyage, was pure uncertainty for the ship owner, but after, like they didn't know the exact odds or what they might lose. What Lloyd created was a social structure that transferred that wide uncertainty from one person to a larger group. The insurance didn't magically destroy the danger of the sea, but it transformed an unmanageable uncertainty into something uh, structure, something that is so-called calculable risk. Yeah, that suits really well in the situation. That calculable risk. Okay, so and this is the key point I want you to remember. Uh, it gave a future. It gave the future a shape. So how does this make like a relevance to Gen Z's situation? We have to fast forward to today's and look at Gen Z. Why do they wake up feeling like there is no solid ground beneath their feet? So researchers like Jean Twenge and Jonathan Haidt have documented a massive spike in anxiety, depression, and structural stress among young people, especially starting around 2012. Uh, People often argue, well, older generation survived world wars and the Cold War. Why is then they complaining when they live in arguably the safest and wealthiest time in the history? Yeah, I agree that it is a fair question, but Frank Knight's theory will explain why. A previous generation faced several threats, yes, but those threats were structural risk within society that has strong safety nets. They had lifetime employment, reliable state pension, and predictable career ladders and affordable housing also. Those structures acted just like Lloyd Coffee House, they turned life's uncertainty into manageable risk. For Denzies, however, those structures are rapidly vanishing. Stable careers are being replaced by the precarious gig economy. Housing is becoming an impossible dream, while AI is threatening jobs that were considered completely safe just 5 years ago. So essentially, the modern Lloyd Coffee House that previous generation relied on are shutting down, leaving young people to face raw, unfiltered uncertainty. But even this diagnosis doesn't go deep enough to really understand it. We have to look at how we perceive time itself. We have to go deep into our brain, our neurodiving system to understand how we perceive everything, how we perceive suffering in particular. In the 1916s, 1960s, historian E.P. Thompson explained how the Industrial Revolution forced humans to work according to the clock. Initially, the people absolutely hate this unnatural schedule. Over time, the strict 8 to 5 routine created a highly predictable society. Sociologist Anthony Giddens called this ontological security. The deep psychological comfort of knowing exactly how the system around you operates. So, when those abstract systems break down as they are doing right now, you lose that collective predictability. And that leads to a profound structural anxiety. Furthermore, we have a fundamental misunderstanding of what the future actually is. We usually imagine the future as a dark room that we are slowly walking into, but the philosopher Martin Heidegger argued that this is entirely wrong. We don't step into the future. We The future is an active projection that exists inside our present actions. Imagine drawing a bow to shoot an arrow. Your posture, how your past training, and the tension in your arm is driven entirely by your future goal of hitting the target. Without that future intention, there is no present action. Interestingly, modern neuroscience really back this up. If we look at Carl Frankston predictive coding theory, we will see that uh, our brains are essentially prediction machines. We don't just passively observe that the world, we constantly project predictions to minimize surprises. So what happens when you put a human brain, a prediction machine, into a society where all the rules keep changing overnight? A young person predicts that studying hard leads to a stable job, but they face a reality of layoffs and gig economy. They predict they can buy a house but face skyrocketing prices. So this is where the contradiction happens. There are massive prediction errors happening constantly. When Gen Z says, I can see my future, it is not because they lack information. It is a biological SOS from a brain that can no longer map a chaotic reality. So to summarize this, the future isn't in a dark room we have to navigate. Right now, for many young people, the collective social projector is broken, displaying a blurry or contradictory images. Think of what Yuval Harari and John Cielo teach us about money, careers, and laws. So they are institutional facts, shared fictions that only work because we all collectively agree to maintain them. For example, uh, such as the monetary system or the law system around the world. Basically, money is just some kind of paper that is printed by some really not invaluable material. But the reason why money takes so much like take an important role in our life because we human do believe that money have some kind of uh, power to it. If that belief is collapsed, and then the monetary system will also uh, collapse as well. So the takeaway here is crucial. We shouldn't just tell young people to be more resilient or to work harder in the broken system. Instead, just like Edward Lloyd built an infrastructure of trust centuries ago, our task today is to actively rebuild the collective protocols and narratives that will give the next generation a stable foundation to project their futures once again. As individuals, we have to. So after this speech, I would like to we have to emphasize that uh, as individuals, in order to overcome this kind of situation, we have to create a new kind of trusted system by staying to committed goals, even it is small. We have to stay committed to it because, like, this it is the small thing that create big things, I believe. Also, I would like to convey this message, like this speech, into French too, because I would like to practice my French language. I find that my speech is kind of not fluent enough, but I really don't care about it much because I know that I'm practicing and I know that I'm on the road where here there, and it's just what what really matters. It's just I'm really fond of practicing, and I really start to try something new like this. Yeah, I think that it is the only thing matters right now. So, permettez-moi de commencer par une petite histoire en mille, de 1688 à à l'époque, dans le quartier de Downing Street à Londres, un homme nommé Edward Lloyd a ouvert un petit café. De l'extérieur, il n'avait rien d'extraordinaire, juste quelques longues tables, une forte odeur de café duc et des hommes discutant à travers l'épaisse fumée de tabac. Mais c'est la clientèle qui le rendait unique. Comme il était près de Gay, il est naturellement devenu un point de rassemblement pour les capitaines, les courtiers maritimes et les marchands attendant désespérément des nouvelles de leurs navires dans l'Atlantique. It's really hard because it's been a long time since I last learned French. It's been months. I'll try my best. So, Lloyd était en fait un homme euh, d'affaires très intelligent. Il a commencé à épiler les nouvelles maritimes sur les murs et engager des gens pour recueillir des informations dans les ports. et a même fourni du papier et des styles propres pour que ses clients puissent rédiger des contrats directement à leur table. Et c'est là que cela devient vraiment intéressant. Parmi ces contrats signés à la l'heure des bougies, il y en avait un type très spécifique. Il ne s'agisse pas d'acheter des marchandises ou d'embaucher des mains d'ouvre et descendre en Russie. Si ce navire en particulier ne revient pas en route d'investisseurs, il se paiera au propriétaire une somme fixe. En échange, le propriétaire le paye d'offrance un montant beaucoup plus petit que nous appelons aujourd'hui un point. Voyez-vous, voyez-vous, avant l'existence euh, de ce genre de contrat, envoyer un navire en mer était un pur pari. Vous mettiez toutes vos économies dans un navire et vous priez. Si revenez, vous étiez riche. Si coulez, vous perdiez absolument tout. Mais après le café de l'autre, quelque chose a fondamentalement changé. Les temps étaient les mêmes et la probabilité des naufrages des navires est restée constante pendant des siècles. Alors, qu'est-ce que, qu'est-ce qui a vraiment changé? Eh bien, la réponse à cette question nous mène directement à la raison pour laquelle la jeune génération d'aujourd'hui, la génération Z, ressent un profond sentiment d'anxiété structurelle que les générations précédentes ont rarement ressenti. Pour comprendre ce lien, nous devons faire un petit détour et parler d'un économiste nommé Frank Knight. En, mille, en 1721, Knight a publié sa thèse de doctorale à l'Université de Chicago. Hmm, Elle, elle s'intitulait Risque, incertitude et profit. Et elle est immédiatement devenue un classique en raison d'une brillante distinction qu'il a faite pour les premiers chapitres. Knight a souligné qu'il y a deux choses très différentes que nous appelons familièrement risques. La première est les risques réels des situations où vous ne connaissez pas le résultat, mais où vous connaissez les probabilités exactes, comme laisser une pièce de monnaie équilibrée. Le second est l'incertitude. C'est lorsque vous ne connaissez même pas les résultats possibles. Euh, il n'y a pas de table de probabilité, pas de données historiques et absolument aucun moyen d'y attribuer